Well, good afternoon, guys. Welcome. I'm not seeing any questions jump in. I think we've had some technical issues, some questions I wasn't able to see last week.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Readdressing
those.
So I'm gonna jump in and see. Make sure if you're watching this live inside of a group that we've shared on or something like that, make sure to click into the actual video and post your question in the comment on the actual video, not on the post in the group. I hope that makes some sort of sense. Does that make sense?
I guess because if you do that, we won't see it.
Right. Yeah. Okay. If you put a question on the post, the shared post, then we won't see that comment. You've got to actually go into our video. So how are y'all doing? It's cold. I'm going to try and get over here and see what's going on. Man, silence. Silence is deafening. No question. Nobody's got service. I guess everybody's they're going Christmas caroling and nobody's getting on the water and nobody's working on boats. No projects for the next couple of weeks or anything like that. I'm shocked. But fortunately, I've got a couple of questions. But before we get to that, so this is our last week being open for 2020. I'll kind of say thank goodness. We'll move on to 2021. It's been a crazy year. So we will be closed for the rest of the year, starting at noon this Saturday, the 19th. So come get what you need. Got a huge shipment of kayaks. We had a guy call this morning. Driving over from Atlanta because we're the only place you could find kayaks. We got 40 Jacksons in. I got them all on the website. So if you're in the kayak stuff, go check them out if you're looking around.
Yes, they're stacked.
They are stacked. You've got some. So when I say we're closed, please keep in mind that means there's a lot of work that some folks have got to do in the off time.
You've got to take the kayaks.
Yep.
And put them somewhere.
And some boat maintenance and all that kind of good stuff too, I'm sure. All right. Well, I see one question from Steve, so we'll jump in and see if we could get some goodness. What should I look for in my 1998 Yamaha 90 horsepower two-stroke outboard? Just purchased from my neighbor. Have not started yet. Going to drain the fuel cell first.
Well, I don't know. Maybe look to see if your neighbor is a good neighbor, is willing to help you too. You know, he sold you the boat. Maybe he'll help you pump some fuel out. But I would, I guess it all depends on, if it's been kept up. Did he sell it to you because it's been sitting in the yard for 10 years and he's ready to get it out of the yard? Is it running? General things like that. If it's been sitting over a year, then you're probably going to need some stuff to be done to it. I would say, number one, definitely if there's any old fuel, I would do that first. And then start with general maintenance stuff, spark plugs, fuel filters, fuel lines. Probably need some gear lube and possibly a water pump. So that's a real good place to start. And then before you get too deep into things, make sure it has good compression. Those engines probably going to run. If it's a two-stroke, it should be somewhere around 100 to 120 pounds, and be even, pretty close to even across the board, within 10 pounds of each other. So that'd be a good place to start.
All right. Hope that helps, Steve. Let's see here. Terry, do anodes need to be replaced on freshwater motors that live on a trailer?
I would say probably, unless they've. The general rule of thumb is an anode needs to be replaced when it gets close to 50% of what it looked like originally. So if you're still at 100%, it'd be a waste of time because unless you just want shiny anodes, and then you can take a wire brush and brush them up and make them look, clean again.
Yeah, I mean that anode is just a sacrificial piece of metal, right?
That's it. Yeah. It's and most of them are made out of some kind of zinc or Yamaha does a really good combination of metals, an alloy that includes zinc and some other things that really work well.
All right. Mike Gladden, what's up? Good to see you.
Cheers.
Corey, for a Mercury 175 Pro XS, should you leave on the factory prop or replace with, or what would you replace it with? So factory prop.
Well, when you say factory prop, I'm assuming you mean an actual Mercury prop, or versus the prop that came on your boat when you got it.
So the 175 Pro XS does not ship in the box. It doesn't come in a crate with a prop.
No, it doesn't. So I will answer that question in two ways. I would say a Mercury makes a good prop. There's usually not any major issues with them. Just like any prop that is, if you run it way out of the water, it has a tendency of breaking ears. But that's all across the board at this point. So I would say the factory prop is compared to like a Solis or a Michigan Wheel or a lot of these other aftermarket props. I would prefer the Mercury prop. Okay, so that's the answer for that. My next answer is if you're talking about replacing it with another Mercury prop that came from the factory, if it came from a factory with like a 23 or 21 and you think it needs a 19, it all depends on how the boat's running. So if it's performing well, then I'd leave it alone. If it's not doing what you want it to do, some people would rather have a lot of hole shot to get out of the hole because they're carrying 4 people in their boat. So if you want that, then you could go with a lower pitch. If you want to go faster, sometimes you can go with a higher pitch, but with the new 4 strokes, they're taking a low pitch prop, and just because you put a bigger pitch on there doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get more speed out of it.
It seems like every time we talk about the props, kind of the short answer is you just got to play with them.
Yeah, and there is no perfect factory prop. Even some of the new boats we get, we might have 2 of the exact same boats that have a 23 on them,
right?
And we have to change it, and it came on that boat from the factory, but it's, it's not like the car industry where this came with, some 205, 45, 17s with Michelin's on it. So there's a lot of different ways you can go with it.
All right. I got the answer for this one. Noise coming from my Minn Kota trolling motor. If you disconnect it from the battery, won't make any more noise.
That's it. I would say that there's more likely what's happened is where the bolts go through that thing. You may have hit an object and it twisted the end caps. You got a cap on the end, and you have the place where the shaft goes through. I've seen those get twisted a little bit, and it rubs a piece against the armature and will make a lot of noise, or it makes the bearings make noise. So sometimes you can take your prop off, barely loosen those bolts up, and you can actually run the motor with the prop off and still probably hear it and kind of move those ends a little bit. And a lot of times it'll take that noise out.
Okay. And I'm seeing he said it's 3 years old. Only 3 years old on that motor. So, all right.
And I've seen water getting, like if you've gotten water inside the bullet, it can cause the bearings to make noise too. So that's another thing it could be.
All right, Scott said I just bought a 2007 Yamaha 150 VMAX.
One of my favorite motors. Only
80 hours approximate on it. Looks like new. My first 2-stroke. It has a large oil storage container backed by the batteries as well as one motor itself. Is the big one just backup?
Sort of. It's all integrated into a whole system. Okay, so they call their system PBS, Precision Blend system. So what they do is they have one on the
It
tank.
sounds fancy.
It does. That's Yamaha for you. They got your main bottle on the engine, and as you're going, that bottle will go down, and there's got these little sensors inside of it, and as it goes down to a certain point, it tells basically the other tank, "Hey, we're getting a little low. Will you send me some this way?" And it'll fill that tank up until it hits the top of another sensor, and it'll shut that tank off. And what's nice about that system is if you got, let's say you got down to about this much left in the reserve tank, it'll stop transferring oil to the engine. And once that tank gets about halfway full, it'll set off an alarm. Okay. And it's important to know this because if you're 10 miles out, you got about 2 tanks worth left in there. So what you have to do is you have to cut your engine off, turn the key back on, go to the back of your particular engine is the back of the engine. Some of them it's by the oil tank itself, but yours is near the little computer thing on the back. There's a little flip switch with the key on, the engine off, which is very important because you don't want to get eat up by a flywheel. You can flip that switch until it fills the tank up. Okay, you can do that about twice. So, and that makes it to where Yamaha's letting you know that you're out of oil and you need to put some more oil in this tank. But it also lets you know that there's a way back. So
all right,
it gets you back to the dock.
And he said, so I only fill up the big
tank. Fill up the big tank. If you have to fill the big tank up and the little tank doesn't fill itself up, there's usually a sign of an issue as well, and it can be several things.
All right. Well, sweet. Glad we could help Scott, or he could help. I didn't know any of that. Timmy Taylor, good to see a High Bucks Island team. Thanks for hosting this event all throughout the year. Hey, yes. It's been fun. Let me see. Those are some good questions. If y'all got a couple more, I'm gonna go through. I thought this might be kind of interesting. I saw somebody posted in the Yamaha owners group, wide open throttle. Do people really run outboards at wide open throttle? I kind of thought, what are some downsides to running wide open throttle? Does it really hurt the motor?
Well, I can tell you this, and this is the fact of the matter. Okay. The engines are designed to run at wide open throttle, or let's just say, at RPM range. Typically it's 5,500 to 6,000, or some of them are, 5,600 to 6,200, whatever. But yeah, it's designed to run that way, but it's only designed to run that way so long. So if you're running wide open throttle all the time, it will diminish the life of the engine. Whereas if you ran it wide open throttle here and there, and then cruised at about 4,500 RPM all the time, that means it's probably going to take less wear and tear. But I can tell you that most of the Yamaha 4-strokes, they'll take wide open throttle for a long time, and I typically see around maybe 600 hours if you're the guy that I'm talking about, the most abused motor that comes in here.
Okay.
I'm seeing them get 600 hours out of that block. Abused harshly, they'll get 600 hours easy out of that block. So that's the good news. So where I was seeing 2-strokes that were mildly abused, 200-300 hours, they were getting power heads. So.
All right. Well, let's see. I saw another comment, Mike. What brand spark plugs do you recommend for Yamaha VMAX 150?
NGK. They seem to like NGK's best.
All right. What else did you have, Scott? Batteries. Hook them the charger after every trip, even short ones, or does that run them down? Are you talking about, I'm assuming you're talking about the starting battery and not the trolling motor batteries or something like that. Because trolling motor batteries,
Yeah,
obviously,
I
you have
think
to
what
hook
he's
to the
saying.
charger.
Yeah, and I think he's wanting to know if charging them every time is going to damage the battery. I would say yes and no. You know, it depends on how you charge it. If you're doing a lot of running, you shouldn't, and not a lot of fishing, or if you're doing a lot of fishing and not a lot of running, I would definitely charge it if you're fishing a lot more than you're running, because you're running live wells, you're running lights, maybe you're running your graphs and stuff. So there's going to be a tendency of running that battery down, and we see that a lot here lately because a lot of these guys are running 4 graphs,
Right.
running live wells, the fan optics and all this stuff, and they're like, man, I fished for 8 hours, and I was like, well, how much did you run? He's like, well, maybe 30 minutes the whole day, and their graphs are shutting off when they're cranking and stuff, and that's going to happen unless you have a way to charge on the run, which a great option for that is that new powerful charger. It'll charge multiple batteries on the run and keep them kind of balanced. But if you do have to charge your battery every time, I would either get a smart charger, something like
something that's going to let it drain down and then charge it back.
Yeah, or it's not just going to max it out with like 10 amps, 15 amps. It's the higher amp chargers that they'll charge the battery a lot quicker, but they will diminish the life of that battery. So if you want to, if you're going to, fish today, you got 8 hours to charge the battery. I would say, run it at 2 to 5 amps at the most if you want the battery to last a long time. If you need it to charge in 4 hours, you're going to have to go with a higher amp, and it will depreciate the life of the battery.
We're getting more and more battery questions.
Batteries are terrible things to have to deal with.
All right. Timmy Taylor. You guys recently replaced my trim pump system, and the new one seems louder than the older one. Is that common?
That just means it's working better.
Well,
I would say it's not common or uncommon.
Maybe his hearing got better.
It's some of them are a little louder than others. They still have brushed motors, or nothing. I wish starter motors were brushless. I wish trim motors were brushless. I wish everything was brushless. We wouldn't have near the problems in this world that we have. Well, but I would say it's not uncommon. It's just some of them are a little louder than others.
Speaking of the brushless, Scott Canterbury was up here the other day with a buddy helping him figure out a skeeter.
Yeah.
He's talking about his Lowrance, and he's been really impressed with running that brushless motor all year. Yeah. With not a lot of issues.
We had
any issues, honestly, actually.
I honestly expected a lot more problems out of the Lowrance. Just saying.
Yeah.
And
so, hey, brushless motors.
Very, very few problems. Actually, very few problems with the Garmin. We didn't sell as many Garmins, right. But we really hadn't had any bad feedback on the Garmins. I guess Motor Guide's still kind of floating out there, not out in the market yet, but maybe they'll get theirs going. And the Ultrexes did fair. There's a lot more of those out there, so we're going to see a lot more issues with those because of the percentage. But everybody's liking them for the most part.
All right. Terry, an older outboard, 1995. How long should I trust the oil injection system?
About that long. You're about at you're about at a place where you probably need to be thinking about doing pre-mix, I would say. Yeah.
All right. Justin, you said our boat's ready, right?
Yes.
All right. Coosa River Keeper, we're getting you back on the water there. Why does my G3 20 Deluxe leak water? After about 5 minutes in the water, I have to turn the bilge on for a few seconds.
Is it every 5 minutes or just that first 5 minutes? I guess would be my first question. So if it just does it every 5 minutes, I would say that you probably got something leaking in there.
Or, I hate to to state check and make sure, was it rainwater that was just left in? Did you leave the plug in and that's why you're turning the bilge on? I know that sounds like maybe an obvious thing, but every now and again
we've had a few leaks that we've had to track down.
Yeah.
So and we're pretty predictable on those. I've seen some of the transom bolts leaking on those because of the design. You've got to put a little extra sealant in there to get those to seal sometimes. And then I've seen a few hoses from the factory where I think somebody had cut a hose and was trying to trim it, and I've seen some splits and some hoses. But here lately, most of it's been pretty good. But we've seen a few here and there that had a few leaks. So.
Oh, okay. Every 5 minutes, not rainwater. Don't do it while running on, while sitting still in the water.
Okay. You probably got either a hose that is either come loose or work loose a little bit, or it may be in the transom bolts. That's the most likely places I would say. When you first put it in the water, you got your flashlight, you can shine it down in there, and usually you can kind of get. If it's not running down the back, then it's probably has something to do with live well hose or something of that nature.
And certainly talk to your dealer if it's not us. Talk to them about warranty repair with that, depending on the age of the boat and all that stuff. But
and if you're not in this area, if you got another dealer somewhere, I would probably point them towards transom bolts because that's the most common leak on that boat.
All right. Well, man, 25 minutes. That's some good questions, guys. I think we covered some good stuff. I think it's time to pack up, finish up our week, head home for get ready for Christmas. We were talking about maybe doing one of these, see if we can throw it together next week. We'll see where we're at. If we got to do it remotely from the house or something like that, we can gin something up. Oh, all right. Yep.
Tim, if you
give us
holler at Angela at the service desk, and we can get you taken care of, buddy.
But guys, if we don't see you again this year, for sure, or before Christmas.
The jacket of the week.
Yeah, the jacket of the week.
Isn't this nice? Got olive and whatever this color is.
If you're a skier fan,
I like this jacket a lot. This will be going into my wardrobe.
Here you go. Here's the retail clothing question of the day. What brand of fishing gear do you guys prefer for all you anglers out there?
I do see that. But anyway,
I'm just kind of curious what y'all's favorites are. So, guys, have an awesome Christmas. If we don't talk to you again next week, but if you get out on the water, definitely be safe in the cold temperatures, and we will see you next time. Thanks, guys.